Well, good morning, YouTube. Winter has arrived, first official day of the season, and I want to talk a little bit this morning about an extension of my video on the Toolbox heater. This is an addendum to that package that is, if anything, perhaps even more steampunk than the original installation. So let me walk you through that a little bit, tell you what I did and why, and once again, don't try this at home. So the seawater temperature right now is showing at about 39 degrees Fahrenheit. That's on a relatively sunny day. It's 47 degrees Fahrenheit out right now, so that temperature is going to dip. We've got a couple of days of 20s, a couple of nights I should say, of 20s this week, and that'll be dangling close to the 32 point. So I've mentioned previously that one of the limiting factors on my off-grid cruising season is the drop in seawater temperature and air temperature combined to a point that could risk freezing the freshwater system in the bilge, particularly the two primary Monell water tanks that are down in the keel of Charis. And you know, when you sit in a situation long enough and stare at it, sometimes you come up with solutions that are a little quirky, but might actually work. And this is one of those that I want to show you today. So in addition to the freshwater tank freezing issue, we have the primary bilge freshwater pump, which is located beneath this hatch. And this is an area where there's a lot of concentrated freshwater piping and hose. It'd be a really bad place to have dip below freezing. Now when I'm dockside, generally I just drop a 100-watt light bulb down here and just keep it running, and the heat from that is adequate to keep this area, as well as the area around the freshwater tanks, from freezing. The side benefit to that is that just aft of this area is the engine, so some of that heat will then rise up into the engine compartment and prevent freezing. But the question is, what do I do when we get those cold snaps, those freezing temperature days that persist, where the temperatures might drop down into the teens and 20s for 2 or 3 days in a row, lowering the seawater temperature? The answer to that, well, one answer to that was this creation of a temporary hatch made from the old salon table. This diverter, which is actually a standard Y fitting that comes with a lot of these heaters, and this little open close duct piece that's available for these heaters. So this allows me to open and divert about half of the airflow from the heater into the bilge, or close and get all of the airflow into the cabin. This entire setup just sits through this hole in the temporary hatch, and the ducting for it runs up in front of the engine cover up to the split companionway board where it ties in. So the hot product air from the heater is blowing in through here. Now, if you recall from a former video, the simplistic installation of the Toolbox heater just has a grate that goes on this fitting, and the warm air blows in here, and you can divert it slightly downward, but it never really reaches the cabin sole. And so one of the shortcomings of the basic installation of the Toolbox heater is that you do tend to have a very warm upper cabin and a chillier lower cabin. Doesn't get the heat down there. This add-on, which was originally done mainly to divert some heat into the bilge, as I say, to prevent freezing down there, has the significant advantage of placing the primary heat outlet to the cabin down at the deck level. So that's what we have there. Works pretty well. I think there are a few things of note. First, you'll note this 3-inch aluminum dryer ducting in the middle. The 2 kilowatt bus heaters are 60 millimeter, so basically just over 2-inch hose. I did not need a 3-inch line to duct the airflow to the floor. The problem is 2 inches is an oddball size. You really can't find it locally. So cobbling this together from the local Home Depot, it was just easier to try this experiment. The interesting thing about this aluminum, this is actually dryer vent hose. This is what you would use on a gas dryer because it's able to handle the heat. So the interesting thing about this, though, is that it actually acts as a nice radiator when you're working in the galley. Not only do you have the heat blowing out at your feet, but that aluminum duct gets quite warm, so you're not really losing any heat through this ducting process. You're just radiating it out versus blowing it out with the airflow from the heater. So overall, a relatively simple solution to this issue of keeping the bilge warm off-grid. I will say, and some of you are probably looking at this right now and saying, no wonder you're a bachelor, this would not pass the aesthetic test of a more, let's say, aesthetically driven other half. So, steampunk to be sure. One of those things that you sort of have to credit as coming from the mad scientist laboratory. As I like to say, don't try this at home, but if you live in a normal home, you probably wouldn't have any reason to try this. So that's my Rube Goldberg chitty chitty bang bang sort of cobbled together solution for today, and just a little bit of an add-on feature to the Toolbox heater. Thanks for coming along.